Welcome back, guys. We're going to do a little power rankings a little bit differently. I know you could just power rank teams based on what you think their relative power is. I'm going to rank teams based on who I think can win RLCS Worlds, or better, of like what's their percentage chance. Like the higher ranking is based on percentage chance to win Worlds. I don't care if you're a good team. If I don't think that you can actually win this tournament, you are not on this list. So I did 10 teams. I probably could have cut it down to 8, maybe even 6, but I wanted to leave myself some wiggle room. So that being said, let's get into the ranking, the numbers, whatever. Let's just get into it. So let's start out number 10. I think G2 is on this list. Oh, I guess I'm in caps. G2. G2 is on this list mostly because they have won a major before, and that's why they kind of just get a nod. They obviously are not the same G2 as last year, and I don't think they're going to get back to that. Like I said before, I think there's a list without them on it. Like, say, if a V1 was here, G2's not here. G2 is like, they can win it because they've won a winter major before. I'm not very confident in them, though. I think they can get top 8. I just don't think they can actually win 3 of those matches on the final day if it's the same format in terms of final day. But I don't think G2 can win this tournament. They haven't won a regional all year. So they're number 10, mostly because they won winter major last year. So I gave them a nod. This is the same thing here with Falcons, I'm going to put for number 2. I don't know why these things are not lined up. We'll try and line it up as best I can. I'll put Falcons at number 9, mostly because of Rule 1's performance that we just saw. We obviously seen them at the Australian Major. If they get hot, these guys can be mechanical beasts. I feel like they are slowly downgrading that over time. But the Falcons, even right after they lost their major spot to Rule 1, perfectly swept Rule 1. It was a very tight series, 1-0, 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. But Falcons, I think if they peak, there's a very, very small chance they win Worlds. But I think if they peak, there is a chance. So I put them at number 9, and I can't spell. So let me do that. There we go. Falcons. Maybe that's how good their odds are, as I can't even spell their name. Next up, I will put Complexity. So Complexity is one of those teams that I'm not incredibly confident in. I feel like I can't get this heading right. Whatever. It's close enough. I'm not very confident in them winning it. They did look very good at Boston Major, so I think that helps. They look good at times, obviously. They have to figure some things out. There's a chance, a small chance, but I think if I began this list more realistically, I would probably start at Complexity at 8. But they still have some work to be done. So I'll give them an 8. They finally won a regional in North America to show that they can win. But when it comes to lands, I'm not sure, because if other teams peak, I don't know if they can keep up necessarily. I don't think their peak is as high as many other teams' peaks. Raze will obviously, when he peaks, he can go off. Same with CRR, but like, I don't know. I don't think their peaks are as high as most teams here, but you don't necessarily will be playing teams that are peaking like all the time anyway. So that shouldn't really play too big of a factor here. I think their floor is very high, and I think they have a chance to make a run. I don't see it. I don't see it in a bracket format of like one life. They have to win 3 matches against some of the best. I don't see it. I give them a small percentage chance to win. Moving on. And you guys are probably calling me crazy already. Let me know in the comments below. Right below the like button, I think is what people say. Or like, why don't you sub? I don't know how this YouTube thing works. Like and sub, comment, whatever. Moving on. Number 7. Rule 1. I'm going to put them here. We saw how good they can do at Boston Major. They made that lower bracket run. I think when they go up against Europe's best, though, I think it's going to be very, very difficult for them to win. We saw that with BDS. They got 3-0'd. And then we saw that against Vitality as well, where they got 4-0'd. Obviously, they were hanging tight, but I'm not as confident that they will win, but at least they've shown some life. So I'll put them just above Complexity. So Rule 1, you surprised me at one tournament. Can you surprise me again and win this whole World Championship? Possibly. Next up, Liquid. We'll put Liquid here. Three mechanical beasts when they're on. I think if they peak at LAN, then they can win this. They just generally don't. They don't like do that at LAN. Like I'm always expecting them to finally wake up and be that team, and then it just never happens. Maybe this is the time, but it's gonna be tough. Like again, like if they're feeling good about it, they have a shot, but you know, small percentage chance here to win. Moving on to the top 5, and here's where I think people can actually win the tournament. I think there's a tier, like, maybe the tiers would be like tier 4 G2 Falcons, tier 3 Complexity Rule 1 and Liquid. And then here we go. I know people are going to be angry at this. I put dots here because this is an actual bulleted list. The other one didn't work, so that is. But here we go. I know you're going to hate me for this, but I'm going to put FaZe here. FaZe at number 5. They obviously had a bad spring split. A double elim did that to a lot of teams in North America. But the greatest North American international team on average is still FaZe. They always find a way, besides one tournament, to make top 4. They made grand finals in winter. I believe if they put the hours in and they're feeling good about themselves, they have a shot to run through this bracket. They are a team that's going to have a lot of question marks coming in. Obviously, didn't go to Boston Major, so we'll see. But I still have faith that they are one of the best teams in North America, and I think they have a shot. I think you always have a shot if you have First Killer on your squad, but we'll see how that all works out. Obviously, First Killer, he also had that really big mistake. Grand Finals of winter. Will that, hurt their chances when they get back there? Will he have nerves for that? I don't think it really matters, but it's possible. Next up, GenG. We'll put them next. I think GenG and FaZe could be, like, at first when I made this list, I actually had FaZe above GenG because I feel like GenG's been more mediocre. And I know this sounds weird because obviously GenG just beat FaZe. But on the international lands, I feel like GenG has been worse. In winter, they were worse. Here, I feel like they weren't really a threat. Like, the only time they were a threat was when Vitality completely collapsed against BDS. And I was like, oh, they can capitalize on that. But I never really had faith that they would take down like a K-Corp or BDS later. But who knows? Like, they obviously won fall, so that gives them a nod there. And they've just been kind of in a slump. And I feel like they're slowly getting out of it. I think this was a good result for them. But it's still difficult to win this tournament. But still, hey, I have them at number 4, which is pretty high. So I go back and forth on them and FaZe just because of FaZe's history. But GenG obviously has history with win and fall. So you could probably alternate these and I wouldn't be too upset. I would put, all right, so at this point, we have what? Tier 4, G2 Falcons Complexity. Tier 3, oh no, I'm sorry, G2 and Falcons. Tier 3, Complexity, Rule 1, Liquid. Tier 2 is FaZe and GenG by themselves. And now we're going to move on to Tier 1. And I think everyone knows who's in Tier 1. It's just what order are they in. I'm going to put BDS here. I think K-Corp is going to have tons of support when they go to the crowd, but I think everyone that plays against K-Corp is going to have tons of support as well because they're going to want to counteract that wall. But K-Corp, obviously, Winter Major champions. BDS hasn't won anything this year. They won stuff last year, which is good, but K-Corp, I think, is the better team than BDS, even though BDS beat them. It was a very close match. I think you could alternate these two, and I wouldn't be too upset. Obviously, they just made grand finals, so they're a very, very solid team. But I think K-Corp just has more history with this squad, so I think I would go with them. And Seiko, like, I worry about him because I felt like his finals was a bit rough. He can either be the best player in a lobby or immediately turn to the worst. I worry about that a little bit. I don't think K-Corp has as much. They won't have that, like I don't think an Exotic or Itachi is going to peak or then go miserable that quickly. So that could be inconsistent for BDS. Might be a little bit more difficult to win. So I am slightly worried about that with BDS, but they're still in Tier 1 because obviously they had a great showing and they've had a great spring split. So moving on, obviously, I think we all know, I guess K-Corp would be Capital. K-Corp, number 2, Vatira is goated. One of the best players in the world. I think he finally got passed by Zen at this last major. Maybe even Alpha too, because like Alpha's popping. But K Corp is insanely talented. Winter Major champions. They were one game away from going to the finals, and then who knows what happens at that point, right? They can easily win this tournament. I would not be surprised at all. But I have them number 2, and then obviously number 1. We'll just get into that talk right now. Vitality. Vitality, their bounce back was amazing. What Farah did was amazing. What they did in the grand finals was amazing. We all know this. It was a lower bracket run, though. Heavily advantaged in RLCS LAN history. We just made a video about that, I guess, on Friday. I'm not sure exactly when these videos are going out, but like 3 days ago. So they had the advantage of the format. Vitality. They had all the momentum. They had the crowd behind them. They're still going to have the crowd behind them, obviously, at times, but it's going to be a little bit more even spread, and they don't have a chance to make a mistake and come back from it, because obviously when you get down to 8 teams in the World Championship, everyone has one life. So they are vulnerable. I'm not saying that they are like the biggest favorites ever to win. They just had a perfect split. I get it, but I wouldn't favor them as highly from the Spring Major than Worlds. And I think that probably confuses a lot of people, but it's mostly due to the formats. In this format, you had a chance to make a mistake. In the Worlds format, when you get to top 8, you can make mistakes before that, but you can't when you make it to the top 8. And I believe that makes it harder to win the tournament overall. So I think Vitality shouldn't be as favorited as highly at the World Championship as they were at the Boston Major. Shout out to Pickstop doing the percentages there on the votes. So Vitality, I would make them favorites to win this World Championship, but not as heavily as Boston, even though they just won it. So we'll see how it all plays out. Nerves are going to play a huge factor. Much bigger arena. A lot of money on the line as well. So we'll see how people handle the nerves. I think that's a big question mark around probably Vitality and BDS more. So I feel like Kickcorp, I haven't seen them be too nervy. But maybe I'm just not seeing it. So if you've noticed it, let me know in the comments below. But here's how I would rank who I think could win. This doesn't mean this is how I would rank them in terms of who could place better necessarily. But it's probably pretty close to the same thing. There's probably a few teams I might add. Like, who could place better, I would probably add, like, and here's a few teams I didn't include. Like, a Space Station, I think, could place better than a G2. But I don't think Space Station's winning this tournament. I barely think G2's winning this tournament as well. And you're probably going to call me crazy on the rankings for this. But that's just because, like, Space Station literally has not won anything in 2.5 years. I just can't. I can't see it at all. So Space Station, even though they had a great spring, still haven't won anything. So I'm not very confident in them. I'm not confident in SAM teams really at all, outside of Complexity, if you want to consider them a SAM team. So I feel like SAM teams, they can punch above their weight class occasionally, but I don't think they can punch above their weight class 3 matches in a row. I just don't see it happening when we get into that bracket. So I don't have them on the list. Like OCE, enough said. APAC, SSA, all right. Let's not get crazy. I think the other teams that were like maybe just missed my list. Honestly, I know Oxygen had a terrible spring, but I think I would rank Oxygen higher. They would probably be my 11th team to win this tournament because the peaks of these 3 players, Archie, Jorius, and Ixo, we haven't seen in a long time. So that's why it's like that they're not really on the list. But if they do peak, they can beat anyone. Can they do that 3 matches in a row on a Sunday? Probably not. But I think they might have a better chance than Moist. I don't know. Moist felt like it was like all Joyo at times. At Boston Major, I would put them both like tied 11th. So it's tough. Like Action hasn't shown it in a very long time, so maybe they just don't have it anymore. Who knows? But like, if they peak, who knows? Who knows? But yeah, I would be shocked if one of these top 5 does not win the tournament. But I think the only one, like probably Team Liquid would be the one that would be like, all right, I could see it. After that, I think it's like a miracle run if anyone below them wins. It's going to be really, really difficult to win this tournament. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch, though. Tell me why I'm wrong in the comments below. I think I cut off my text a little bit on who can win RLCS World. Oh, because I scrolled maybe? Oh, here's my other Group C playoff scenarios from last year or from winter. Here you go. Go check it out. So it kind of cut off a little bit at the top, but that's okay. You all know what it says. But there you have it. That's who I think could win. Nothing crazy, but again, this is just who can win the title. I don't care if you're first, or well, I guess I care if you're first. I don't care if you're in grand finals. I don't care if you're third. I don't care if you're last, or if you don't even make it to the main event. I care if you win or you don't. Everyone's got a 50-50 shot. You either win it or you don't. But these top 10 have a better shot than the other 14 teams. Yeah, so there you go. Thank you guys for watching. Trying to get this YouTube popping a little bit more where we just have conversations about things. So if you could, like and subscribe, all that stuff. Comments as well. It really helps. And we'll try and keep these going for a little while, like up until Worlds. And then who knows? I'm thinking about streaming on YouTube just to like keep it all in one basket. Let me know if that's a good idea or not. I don't know. So maybe in the future I'll do that. But until then, we'll catch you later.